Welcome to the Genius Talk podcast. I'm your host Atul Raj from the bestemailmarketer.com. And today we have Alexis Haselberger with us. Hey, did I pronounce your name right?
Almost. It's Alexis Haselberger, but I won't complain.
Okay, so it's 99% right.
Yeah, you got it
Okay,
close.
that is right. Okay, so thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on.
Awesome. So for our listeners who don't know you, can you tell them who you are and what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm Alexis Haselberger. I am a time management, productivity, and stress reduction coach. So I help leaders and their teams to do more and stress less, basically to use their time in a way that feels good every day.
So I'm curious, what inspired you to become?
Yeah. So I spent the first, 15 years or so of my career in early stage startups, doing everything that wasn't sales and engineering. So HR, operations, legal, finance, facilities, like just all of the things. I had roles like director of HR, director of operations, this sort of thing. And it was always really important to me to do a really good job. And I also never wanted to work more than 40 hours a week. So I think that I started figuring out, for me in my life, and I had a couple kids along the way, how do I do a really good job at work? How do I progress and also still have maximum amounts of time for myself and my family, et cetera? And then people started coming to me for those sorts of skills. And over time, the last startup that I worked for, the CEO asked me one time, "Hey, do you think you could make a workshop for our team, just like based on the things you already do?" And this sounded like the most fun assignment to me ever. And so I did it. It went really well. And it just kind of put this like thing in the back of my head that was like, oh, this is a skill set that I have learned over time. Like I wasn't born with it. I learned it. And it's a skill set that not everyone has because nobody teaches this stuff in school. Nobody teaches it in college. Nobody teaches it and when you enter the work world. And so some people sink because they just get so overworked and overwhelmed. And, other people kind of cobble it together. But I just thought this is an area where I could help people.
Okay, so what do you think? Like, what are the most common productivity mistakes you see your clients make?
Okay, so first one is like actually a mindset thing. It's just thinking that you can do it all. Like thinking that there is some way that you can Tetris everything together and get everything that you want to get done every single day forevermore. Because the reality is we all have limited time. Time is about trade-offs. And when you're stuck in thinking that somehow you can get it all done, you can work 18 hours a day for the rest of your life and you will never get it all done, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the first thing is just understanding that not only do you have to make decisions, but you get to make decisions about your time. So I think that's like a big one that people come in with. And then there's like lots of tactical things like notification. People have notifications on their phone, on their computer, et cetera. This is a huge productivity killer. People spend about a third of their workday just recovering from these distractions, right? So it leaves you feeling very stressed. It also leaves you feeling like the only time you can get work done is when other people are asleep. People also, they don't plan, right? So they show up to each day and they're like, okay, maybe I have a list, maybe I don't, and I'm just going to do what I need to do. And they work all day long. And then at the end of it, they feel like, well, I didn't get anything crossed off the list, or it didn't move the needle very far. So there's a lot of issues with like intention versus execution.
Okay, so how do you recommend doing it? Like putting it on paper, like what do you want to do whole day instead of having that on phone? Like how do you recommend?
So, I mean, I use a task. So I think that there are lots of different ways for lots of different people. Like there is no right one way for every single person to do it. So some people really like paper. I'm a big fan of using a task app, something that you can use on your computer that also syncs directly with your phone. If you're a paper person, you can always print it out if you don't want to have it like be looking at your phone all day long, et cetera. But I recommend kind of planning in advance. So looking at next week and being like ruthlessly realistic on Friday so that you can say, okay, what do I need to do next week? Where does it fit into the time I have available? So kind of planning for the time you actually have instead of the time you wish you had. Because I think a lot of people, they are like, okay, well, I have these 40 things and I'm going to do them today. And in reality, they have time to do 5 of them. And so then they feel bad about themselves because they're like, well, I didn't do these 35 things and now I need to move them to tomorrow, right? And then you do that every day and you feel bad about yourself instead of saying, okay, you know what? Like, I'll give you an example. If I have a day, like I have a day today where I have maybe 2 half an hours in between meetings. I just am in meetings and client sessions all day long. I did not assign myself anything to do other than email and, messaging, because
Yeah.
at best, I'm going to be able to get through that stuff. If I also had a long list for today that
Uh,
included all sorts of project work, that's just wishful thinking. Like, I'm not going to get it done. And then I'm going to be frustrated because my plan for tomorrow doesn't work and
yeah,
yada,
yeah.
yada.
So, how do you help your clients build long-term sustainable habit versus like quick fixes?
Yeah. So I think that everyone's frustrated that things take longer than everyone just wants to be like, okay, I learned it, I did it, and now I'm moving
Yes.
forward. Right. And, this is evidenced in, when I work with clients, I usually start with kind of a 4-month structure, and we're meeting like every couple of weeks and we're talking in between and they're making progress on things. And so many people are like, can I do it faster? Let's meet every week. Let's meet twice a week. And I'm like, we can try it, but I am fairly sure that you're going to say, I actually need more time in between sessions so that I can practice and put this thing into real life.
Mhm.
So there's one that we spread it out. We don't expect ourselves to make like quick whiplash changes all the time. And then I also use a lot of science-backed strategies. So when it comes to building habits, like habits are just hard for humans in general.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
for those of us who are, neurodivergent, I have ADHD, habits are even harder. And so we don't want to use strategies like willpower or
Mhm.
motivation, because those are like, we don't always have access to them, right? If we're tired, if we're low energy, we might not have access to those things. And so we use science-backed strategies, like, for instance, convenience and inconvenience, right? It's like our human brains want the path of least resistance, right? And
Yeah.
so there are all these really interesting studies that show that, for instance, they did this one study where this woman had, or, people had a candy bowl on their desk. And then for the next week, they had a candy bowl like 2 feet from their desk, right? And people eat so much more candy when it's on
Yeah.
your desk than
Yeah.
when you have to like lean over to the side to get it,
Yeah.
right? We just, like, human beings go towards the path of least resistance. So how can we use that? Well, one, if we want to prevent ourselves from doing things, we can make it
Mhm.
harder, like notifications. If we turn off notifications on our phone, we are less likely to keep checking our phone. Will we still do it? Yeah, because there's part of it as our brain that wants to get
Yeah.
there, right?
Yeah.
But that's one way, right?
You know what? Last week I uninstalled Instagram, okay?
Yeah.
And from that time, I never thought about opening Instagram until I installed it yesterday.
Yeah. Right. It's like I always think it's so much easier to remove the temptation
Mhm.
than to resist it. And like, I
Yeah.
will also say, I have personally uninstalled TikTok and reinstalled it like 7 times on my phone. And eventually I just realized, you know what? I actually just really like TikTok. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to uninstall it and never look at it again. But I did set up on my phone that it's not accessible to me after 8 p.m. And I don't look at it during the workday. So that I'm not concerned about. I was more concerned about like scrolling at night because I was, scrolling too late into the evening. And so I just set it up on my phone so that it's not accessible to me after 8 p.m.
Yeah. And there is also one thing pattern, right? Like in habits, there is patterns.
Hmm.
Yeah. So when I used to use Instagram, I used it on phone. Right? But the moment I installed it on tablet, I don't like using Instagram because everything
Yeah.
is too big.
Yeah, totally, right? And this is also like if you've ever grayscaled your phone, make it black and white.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like every phone, you can go into it and you can turn on grayscale. And I actually have this set up for myself. So my entire phone goes black and white at 11 p.m. And that's like a signal to me that it's time for bed. Because you look at it, if you're looking at it, like, let's just say Instagram, because TikTok won't allow me to look at it after 8. But like if I'm looking at something, maybe I'm even doing Duolingo or something, immediately in its black and white, it's like unusable. It's ugly to look at. I don't want to look, just one of my clients described it as when she turned on grayscale, her phone became, quote, gross. She was like, I just don't want it anymore.
Yeah.
And so there are lots of these kind of tricks that we can use to help us to have the behavior that we want in the long term. Because if you start to put these things in place, then it starts to become more of a habit over time.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So then the best thing to do is always have our phone on black and white mode.
Yeah, I mean, or, it's for me, like, I do want to do Duolingo, and it is hard to do when it's in black and white. So that's why I have it set up on a schedule. But a lot of people have it set up so that it's on a schedule during the workday. Or, I have a client, and for him, the most helpful thing that he does is he just puts his phone in a cabinet when he gets to work.
Yeah.
Like he
That's
just puts it away, right? So
yeah.
putting
Yeah.
it like out of sight, out of mind. It's like just a teeny amount of
Uh,
friction
uh,
actually goes a long way. And on the other side of things, like let's say you're trying to build a habit and you want it to be more convenient, right? And so this is things like put it, like for instance, I run. And so on the weekends, I put
yeah.
on my running clothes as soon as I get up in the morning. And
Oh my
that
God.
way, at any point during the day, I can just go on a run. Like I don't have to think, okay, where are my clothes? I have to get changed, whatever. It's just much easier to be like, oh, I have 15 minutes. I have 30 minutes now between now and the next thing. I can go on a run right now. So thinking about how you can add convenience and how you can remove convenience. These are just one of the set of science-backed strategies that we use.
So you know what? You just made me think I should put running shoes like near my bed. So every time I wake up, I just wear the shoes
Yeah,
and just go
exactly,
for
right?
running. Yeah.
You're doing it even though you didn't know it was a real strategy.
Yeah. Like, how do you suggest creating boundaries between work and professional life, especially
Yeah.
for people who are working from home?
Yes, great question. I think this has been something that became really hard for people during the pandemic, right? When we all worked from home. It's like
Okay.
all of a sudden there were zero boundaries and
Yeah.
people had been used to having like physical and spatial boundaries and also time boundaries, right? And then all
Yep.
of a sudden it was all
Exactly.
collapsed and we have to kind of think about it more intentionally. And so I actually had been working from home for about 5 years before the pandemic. And so I felt
Hmm.
like, I'm coming into this with a little bit of experience.
Yeah.
But a couple of things that I find to be really helpful in creating those boundaries is one, pick some work hours. They don't have to be the same time every day, right? But saying to yourself, like, okay, today I'm getting started at 9 o'clock and I'm ending at 6 o'clock, and like giving yourself a stopping time
Yeah.
instead of just allowing work to kind of bleed in to the rest of your day, right? So giving yourself some work hours. I think it can be really helpful to build in a transition. So this might be literally walking around the block. Like you get up, you put on your clothes, you walk around the block, you come back and you sit at your desk. Or at the end of the day, having a transition that helps you move from your workday into your home day. So for me, usually that's when I run on weekdays.
Hmm.
Is after the workday, I will go for a run, and that's the time to like clear my head and kind of move into home life. It can also be really helpful, like if if you have one laptop, let's say you didn't get a work laptop from your job, you just have one laptop you're using, having two different profiles on there. So having a professional profile and having a home profile, because I think that it's like if I like this is why I have two task systems, one for my work world and one for my home world, even though I work for myself and I work from home. The
Yeah. Yeah.
reason I have these two systems is because I know myself and I know that if I see a work task on the weekend, I might want to do it. And I don't want to do that. Like I want to prevent myself from doing that. So I think these are all little things that you can do to help yourself kind of create some structural boundaries.
Okay. So, can you describe a particular transformation of a client?
Yeah. So I've so many. So even if I look back many years ago to my very first client, he said to me after at kind of the end of our time working together, he said, hey, I just want to let you know that the HR person at my work, she came up to me and she just said, how are you so much better at getting stuff done than all of the other people at your level, right? He's like a
Uh,
director level at a big tech company. And he
uh,
said, because I've been working with Alexis. And so I think that was really, I mean, this is a person who, when we started working together,
uh,
we calculated it out and he had 40 hours a week of standing meetings, recurring meetings, 40 hours a week. And he was a director level and he was trying to work. Like it was like, yeah, no wonder you're working until midnight every night because 40 hours a week are taken up during meetings. And so
yeah.
that's one of the things that we'll do together is do a calendar audit to see like where are the meetings you need to be, where are the things you're holding on to that you don't need to, where can you delegate, what can we reduce, and where do we really need to spend our time. So I think he was someone that I'm always very I'm proud of him because he made so much progress, and I'm proud
Uh-huh.
of me because he was my first client. And so it
Wow.
was like a really amazing to be able to get that kind of results.
Okay. Can you walk us through the process of working with you?
Yeah. So when I work with clients, we start with kind of 4 months, as I said, and we go through a particular arc. And so while it's different for everyone, we're going to be talking about
Mm-hmm.
different things.
Yeah. Yeah.
We start with this kind of same arc. And so we start by knowing yourself better exactly as
Uh,
you are, right? It is so much easier to build habits and build processes around who you are than try to fit yourself into somebody else's
Yeah,
box. And so
exactly.
we look things like, what is our chronotype and how do we handle internal and external expectations? And are we extroverted or introverted? What are our energy patterns look like? Like there's a whole bunch of things, right, that we start with.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. When I said chronotype, you mean circadian rhythm, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay,
So
okay.
like, are you, it's like for me, I am a night person. Right now it's 9:20 in the morning. And I told you right when we got on this that I literally just woke up and got out of bed. Right. And so, for me, I'm much more of a night person. Whereas some people I work with, like they're great at 5 a.m. And so we can kind of shift things in that way. Like I exercise after work because there's no way I'm going to be able to get up to exercise before work. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So we start there and we do a little time tracking as well. And so we get a baseline of kind of where are you spending your time? Most people
Uh-huh,
are just not really aware of it. So another kind of tech exec I was working with one time, he started tracking his time and he found that he was spending 4 hours a day on Reddit and YouTube. And like he had no idea because it was all in like 2-minute chunks here and there. Right. And so
uh-huh,
we just gained some information from that. Then we move into task management. So task management, what are all the things you have to do, you think you have to do, you want to do, and let's get them into an external source. So I like to use a
uh-huh.
task app. Some people like to, I mean, I've even run companies on a spreadsheet before, right? But task apps are, I think, much, much better now. And some people really like paper. And like, while you do spend a whole lot more time writing and rewriting things,
Yeah.
paper can work as well. So, we work on something to get it all out of our brains. Then we move into prioritization. So okay, we have all these things. What do we say yes to? What do we say no to? And then where do we fit them in time? So I really think about it from a perspective of we're not going to be able to do everything. So let's learn how to prioritize in such a way that with clarity every day, the things you did today were more important than the things you didn't do so that you can feel
Yeah.
good about both. Then we move into planning, kind of how we talked about before. So end of week planning for the next week, end of day planning for the next day. That's a really another really important place to have boundaries because if
Uh-huh.
you can do some planning today for tomorrow, you actually can disconnect from your work and enjoy your evening and not be thinking about all the things you have to do when you're sitting at the dinner table. And you can start the next day with a plan in place. Will that plan change? Yes, it will, but that's okay because you are able to kind of pivot from it. Then we move into our tools. So email, messaging, Slack, calendar. We're doing calendar audit. We're getting to Nbox 0, learning how to stay there in a way that doesn't spend all of our time in email. Then we move into habits and habit building,
Uh-huh.
like we talked about. Then we move into efficiency. So this is things like batch processing, templatizing, delegating, outsourcing. Everybody has, a certain amount of time they want to devote to being productive and
Uh-huh.
working. And we want to make that as efficient as possible so you have more
Uh-huh.
time for everything else you want to do in life. And then we move into focus. This is
Focus, yeah.
half distractions, right? Like how do we continue to remove distractions? And we've kind of been doing that the whole way through. But on the flip side of that, like have you ever been alone in a room, no distractions, and you still can't focus on the thing that you know you need to do? Yeah. Well,
This happened couple times, but not
yeah.
anymore. Not I'm used to
Yeah.
that.
Now you got it. Yeah. So for a lot of people, they're like, it's like they often spend a lot of time staring at their
Uh-huh.
computer screen, just kind
Uh-huh.
of in analysis paralysis, unable to
Yeah, yeah.
focus. And so we also use some strategies to help us to be able to focus in the absence of distractions. And so the goal
Uh-huh.
of this process is that
Uh-huh.
people leave not only with a set of working strategies right now, but also with a kind of more metaphorical toolbox full of tools so that when things change, when they have another kid, when they get a different job, when their team explodes by 2x, they are able to say like, okay, here's the tool I need to pull out in this situation to change my system.
Okay, so what's one myth about productivity or time management you wish everyone would stop believing?
I think it's that one that we talked about in the beginning that is, I can do somehow I'm going to figure out how to do it all and that I'm never going to have to disappoint anyone in the process.
You know what? I have done that. And here's
Yeah.
how to went every time. So one day before I planned my next day and I have put too much on my to-do list, and next day I stay awake till 4 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's like
Yeah.
we need to be ruthlessly realistic about what we
Mhm.
can do. And I think people are afraid to do this because it kind of feels bad to be like, hey, I have this list of 100 things I want to get done, but I'm only going to be able to get 5 of them done. But that feels so much better. Like it feels so much better to say, you know what, I have time for these 5 things. I'm going to get these 5 things done. Then I have these 100 things and I get 5 things done. The first instance, you feel great about yourself. The second instance, you feel terrible, but you still got the same 5 things done, right?
Yeah. Okay. For our listeners who want to connect with you, want to get help from you, where can they go?
So best place to go is my website, alexishasselberger.com. And from there, you can listen to my podcast. It's called the Do More Stress Less podcast. Or you know what? You're probably listening right now to a podcast. You can go into whatever podcast app you use, the Do More Stress Less podcast. You can also sign up for some free resources as well. There's a distraction action plan that helps you to identify your distractors and remove them so that you can save a couple of hours a day. And then if you are interested in working with me, there's ways to connect there as well.
Okay, great. So, I'm curious to know, how do you help your client, get less stress?
Less stress. So it is
Yeah.
through all of these things, right? I really believe strongly that productivity and stress management go
Mhm.
together.
Okay.
So when we are, for instance, planning out our weeks, and when you plan for the right amount of things to do, you feel less stress because you are not like, oh my God, what are all these, like I'm trying to get through all this stuff. When you use a secondary brain, like a task app or a spreadsheet or a notebook or
Mhm.
whatever,
Mhm.
you feel less stress because you don't have this big ball of anxiety in the back of your brain saying,
Yeah.
I know I'm missing something. I just don't know what it is and when it's going to come back to bite me. Right. And so through all of these practices, we actually not only do we become more productive, but we actively reduce stress.
Hmm. Okay, so that's the byproduct of doing that.
Hmm. Yeah, they
Yeah.
go hand in hand. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so is there anything else that you would like to share?
I think that the last thing I'd like to say is you don't need to do everything all at once, right? If I can leave you with one thing, it's like today, just make a plan for tomorrow and see how that goes. Humans do better with small steps and experimentation, right? So will everything go exactly as you planned? No, but will you learn some really interesting things and be able to tweak
Yes.
it? Yes.
Okay, Alexis, thank you so much for spending some time with us. And it was really fun chatting with you.
Thank you so much. It was fun for me as well.